There's a strange pattern in the lives of most believers that rarely gets named. Sunday morning, worship music, community, a sermon that lands, faith feels solid, obvious, like standing on bedrock. And then Monday comes. The alarm goes off. The commute starts, the emails pile up, and that bedrock from yesterday feels more like sand. Nothing changed, no crisis happened, no sin was committed. The circumstances are identical, but the feeling is gone. And without the feeling, a quiet question creeps in. Was any of it real? Last month we went deep. Silence, doubt, anxiety, dangerous phrases. Today, something quieter. About what faith looks like when no one is watching. When there is no worship set, no community around, no emotional lift, just a person, a Tuesday morning, and a decision. That pattern, strong on Sunday, shaky on Monday, is not a sign of weak faith. It is a sign of normal faith. Because Sunday is designed to produce feelings. The music is intentional. The lighting is intentional. The communal energy of a room full of people expecting something to happen that is real. And it works. It is supposed to work. But it is also temporary. The feelings it produces are weather. They come and go. And the mistake most people make is building their entire understanding of faith on weather. When the sun is out, God is close. When it rains, something must be wrong. But weather is not climate. Climate is what shapes a landscape over decades. Climate is the slow, invisible force that determines what grows and what does not. And faith, real faith, the kind that survives, is climate, not weather. It is not what happens on the best day. It is what remains on the worst one. Think about the people in your life who have been believers for decades, not the ones on stage, the ones in the back row, the ones who never write books or lead worship or post about their morning devotionals. Most of them will tell you the same thing if you ask honestly. Most days, it does not feel like anything. Most days, faith is a routine, not a ritual in the holy sense, but a routine in the ordinary sense, like brushing teeth, like making the bed. The decision to keep going was made a long time ago, and the feelings come and go like tides, and the decision outlasts all of them. That is not inspirational. Nobody builds a YouTube channel around, "I brushed my spiritual teeth again today." But that is what sustained faith looks like for most people, and nobody tells them that is enough. The church, unintentionally usually, has created a culture where ordinary faith feels like failed faith. If the sermon does not move you, something is wrong. If worship does not bring tears, something is blocked. If the Bible does not feel alive every time you open it, maybe the problem is you. And so people perform. They manufacture emotion. They raise their hands when they do not feel it. They say, "Amen," when they are numb. And the gap between what they show and what they feel becomes another source of shame, stacked on top of the original emptiness. A pastor once gave a sermon about this, honestly, which is rare. He said, "I have led worship thousands of times, and most of those times I felt nothing. Not joy, not transcendence, not the presence of God washing over me like a wave. Most of the time, I felt like a person doing a job. And for years I thought that disqualified me, until I realized that the people in the room were feeling the same thing and hiding it, just like I was." The problem was never the absence of feeling. The problem was that we made feeling the currency of faith. And when the currency runs out, people think they are bankrupt. There is a verse people quote when things are hard, Lamentations chapter 3, verses 22 and 23. "The steadfast love of the Lord never ceases. His mercies never come to an end. They are new every morning. Great is thy faithfulness." It shows up on coffee mugs and morning devotionals. It sounds warm, comforting, like a sunrise after a hard night. But the context of that verse is one of the darkest moments in the entire Bible. Lamentations was written after the fall of Jerusalem. The author, traditionally attributed to Jeremiah, had just watched his city burn, his people dragged into exile, children starving in the streets. The book opens with lines that sound like a man who has lost everything. "How deserted lies the city. The roads to Zion mourn. Her priests groan. She is in bitter anguish." That is not a morning devotional. That is a man writing from inside a catastrophe. The word Lamentations itself means a passionate expression of grief. The entire book is 5 chapters of raw, unfiltered pain. And right in the center, literally the structural center of the book, which scholars believe is intentional, sits this verse. His mercies are new every morning, not at the beginning, where it would sound like a thesis statement, not at the end, where it would sound like a resolution. In the middle, surrounded by suffering on both sides, like a candle in a room with no windows. It does not light the whole room, but it is there. And the fact that it exists inside that much darkness is precisely what gives it weight. And in the middle of that catastrophe, not after it, in the middle, he writes, His mercies are new every morning. The verse was not written on a good day. It was written on the worst day. It was not a celebration of God's faithfulness from a place of comfort. It was a choice to believe in faithfulness from a place of destruction. That changes the verse completely. It is not a warm feeling. It is a cold decision. A man standing in the ruins saying, I will believe this anyway. That is Monday morning faith, the kind that does not need music or community or a feeling in the chest. The kind that shows up when the room is empty and the only reason to keep going is a decision that was made before the feelings left. And that kind of faith, the quiet, undramatic, unglamorous kind, might be the most real version there is. There is a man who once described his faith like this: most days I do not feel close to God. Most days prayer feels like leaving a voicemail, but I still show up. Not because I feel something, because I decided something. And the decision holds on days when the feeling does not. He had been a believer for over 20 years. He was not in crisis. He was not doubting. He was just honest that the majority of his faith life existed outside of peak moments. And he had learned something that took a long time to feel like a kindness and not a disappointment. The peak moments are not the point. The in-between is the point. The showing up is the point. I almost walked away from that idea once. Not from faith, from the version of faith that says something must be wrong on the days when nothing feels alive. There was a stretch, weeks, maybe longer, where every prayer was flat. Every reading was routine. Every morning felt like a repetition of the one before, and the thought that kept coming back was, if this is what faith looks like without the high, then what am I even doing here? It took a long time to realize that the showing up was the answer, not a placeholder for something better, the thing itself. The same way a marriage is not measured by the wedding day, it is measured by the 10,000 ordinary mornings after it. The wedding was the spark. The mornings are the fire. And most of the fire looks nothing like the spark, because faith that depends on feeling is faith that collapses when feelings change, and feelings always change. A person who only believes when worship gives them goosebumps will stop believing the first month the goosebumps disappear. But a person who gets up on a gray morning, sits with a cold cup of coffee, opens a book they have read 100 times, and says, I am here, even though I feel nothing, that person has a faith that cannot be taken away by a bad week. That is not less than the Sunday version. It might be more. So if faith has felt flat lately, if the mornings have been gray and the prayers have been quiet, and the Bible has felt like a textbook instead of a love letter, maybe nothing is wrong. Maybe this is what growth looks like when it is not performing. Maybe the most faithful thing is not to chase the next emotional experience, but to stay where things are ordinary, to plant a garden in the gray, and to trust that something is growing even when nothing feels like it. Here is something worth trying. Tomorrow morning, whatever kind of morning it is, gray or bright, inspired or empty, do one small thing. Not a devotional plan, not a reading challenge. One thing. Open the book, read one verse, sit for 60 seconds. Not because it will feel meaningful, it probably will not, but because the decision to show up, again without fireworks, without a soundtrack, is the thing, the whole thing. And over time, that accumulates into something no single worship experience can match. Not a feeling, a foundation. And that is okay. Next time, a woman nobody preaches about, and the first person in the Bible who gave God a name.